Hello and welcome to today's AMA. I'm QX, and with me on audio we have Kushti jumping in. How you doing, Kushti?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing all right. So we have some progress on, I'll talk about the SIGs. I'll take it first, Kushti, if you don't mind. We have, as I spoke about at the Drunk AMA, or whatever it's called, the Ergo for Dummies a little bit, and the AMA a little while ago, I think, the Sigmanauts are working at engaging market makers to see what that will do for a couple of proposals that we have. As some of you may or may not know, market making is required, and volume is required for some DEX listings. And to create a certain volume on those decks. I'm not going to go into the morality of that right now, or what that means for all the crypto that you see on dexes making swaps. I think Joe's been very clear about how he feels about those kind of numbers happening on dexes, on CEXs. But it's our job as a SIGs to look at those kind of things and see what we can do to help with adoption for Ergo. So the idea is to gather some proposals, engage with some market makers, and see what they think. And our strategy was essentially to let the market makers know that we have a goal of potentially an exchange listing at the end of whatever term we're going to be using with these market makers, and they develop their response of the proposal around there. So we've got a full answer from a service that we reached out to about 2 weeks ago and had a meeting with. We are in contact with about 4 more services, actually. I'm scheduling meetings with them in the next couple of days, and we'll go from there. Once we have all their proposals back, we'll have a discussion about it in the SIGs. We'll definitely make those public as well. There's no reason for these kind of things to be private. And we'll see what the community thinks. We'll see if the SIGs can swallow any of that kind of stuff as well, and we'll put it up for votes based on that. A lot of it involves fundraising to help out with this, as well as potentially some loans to deal with liquidity shortfalls or shortages there. Speaking of that, though, some amazing news, Kushti. We got the power is going to do this the whole time. I'm sorry. I look better in dark, though. Some amazing news. Louis Vatra or whoever fixed the front-end bug of Padia. So Sigmanauts were given 50 Sigmanaut tokens for the DAO maybe 2 days ago or yesterday. And Glasgow has been distributing them to a couple members. And we also put some votes up on Padia for Sigmanauts to see if they can be voted in with Padia. So the way it works is you can make a vote on Padia. You can insert the Sigmanaut token, who the address goes to if the vote is yes. So if that person is voted in as a Sigmanaut, then they get sent that token at the end of the threshold, which is super, super cool. I've been playing around in the comment section of it already. I haven't cast my vote yet, but it's amazing to have that there and have that functional. Super cool. I'm super excited about it. I'm already thinking of ways to integrate that into my everyday work life here at Cornell. And one of the initial ideas I had for Padia is we have this computing lab, about a 30, 40 seat computing lab. Let me try to turn on my light. Up in one of the sides of the building. So it's a big teaching lab, and the students that go there are very, very passionate about how that runs and what it consists of. So my first idea for using a DAO in these kind of situations is to create a DAO for that space, allocate some tokens that represent a real world value out here, because I can't necessarily at this point have the students exchanging for real money. So those tokens will represent an amount of budget that I have set aside for that lab. And so we could say, look, students, here's a DAO that we're going to give tokens to every single student in this department. And to make you members of the DAO, we're going to say that the treasury is made up of X amount of lab DAO tokens as well. And those DAO tokens represent 1-to-1 dollar-to-dollar ratio of what I have set aside. So I can say, look, there's 50,000 DAO tokens here that represent the lab space, that represent $50,000 in my account to take care of this lab. and the cycle is on every 4 years. So $50,000 every 4 years. Let's decide as a group, as a student organization, through a DAO, how we update these computers, what we update these to, how we update the AV system, what's going to be better for you, new desks, new screens, all that kind of stuff, keeping the old ones. So I think it's going to be an amazing way to get these students to actually have some serious interaction with how a space that they love and are passionate about, and make them feel like they have a voice in that matter. So it's mostly a DAO in that sense. Of course, I'm going to have to then execute their decisions based on me holding the budget as far as that goes. There's no budget I can directly put into the DAO, but that's why we'll have those 1-to-1 ratio DAO tokens there to represent the funds that they'll have access to. So super excited to try that out. And then hopefully it can expand from there as well, where students start using these DAOs for their organizations or groups and those kind of things. So that's where we're going from there. But Sigmanauts are there right now, as well as one other group, I think, and we're going ahead at it. So super great. We'll move the treasury eventually when we get some trust built up that the contracts are working and they're not going to get stuck. Our treasury is not going to get stuck in the DAO treasury. But yeah, that's a pathway there. Kushti, what's up with you this week?
Busy as usual. So there was very good developers chat yesterday, and it seems more and more infrastructure and projects appearing around. So now we have Ergo names, demo, right? Some private testing of a demo being presented. Then Lithos revival with a lot of interesting stuff. I still need to get into, to be honest. Then a lot of talks about EEPs, libraries, so on. I'm working in particular on improving and shaping semantics of some things in Sigma interpreter. Right now, then Padia, right? Well, another big thing. Then I personally thinking about creating DAO. In addition to initial plans, right, on doing good things there for some social good things, and gold cooperative there, right, for gold Oracle pool operators, Dexidion, Chain Cash, and so on developers. So also doing some DAO for co-development. Right, because to me currently how power structured is far from ideal. So I will write some things on that in coming days, hopefully today or tomorrow. But let's see. Then a lot of progress here and there. Aid applications, Dexy, Gleon, and so on, right? Well, a lot of updates. And then, also another catalyst round started. So there are 3 proposals from Padia there, and 2 from Zingate. One is about a new Rosen bridge. If you hold ADA Cardano tokens, then please support both teams. 3 teams actually. So Padia, Zingate, Rosen. Sorry, just concluding. So in short, a lot of things going on as usually in parallel. Please go ahead. Sorry, what's happening?
What do you think the timeline for you setting up the Good Things DAO is, and how many people do you see? Are you taking donators from the first round and the second round, or just the second round, and distributing the Good Things DAO tokens? What's your timeline for that?
Yeah, so both rounds, and yeah, I will do more raffles, and yeah, I'll provide loans this week, hopefully. Since the raffle was successful, well, it was secured with my ex after all. And yeah, well, in regards with market making also, well, looking around what's possible, right? Well, I'm not a whale, but yeah, well, so some things are looking possible, right? So, well, it seems non-KYC exchange does have liquidity pools, right? And well, actually, because of liquidity pools, I believe CoinEx got popular back in 2020. Because yeah, well, with liquidity pools, order book was better there than on other exchanges such as Hotbit, Tidex. Well, if everyone remembers those exchanges, so well, liquidity in order books was terrible, and well, because of liquidity pools, so CoinEx actually was better than competitors back then. Yeah, then yeah, well, I'm personally thinking about providing a little bit to non-KYC. Well, please do not deposit significant amounts to centralized exchanges. Well, any exchange. But still, yeah, so possible to distribute right a bit here and there, and well, just to put liquidity and then see it working for you. Yeah, sorry again.
No, I was going to say, do you recommend, instead of trying to run a bot or something like that for trading, do you recommend those liquidity pools? Have you had good luck with them in the past? I know when I first, before Rosen launched, I put quite a bit of Rosen and either USDT or Bitcoin, I think, pair, whatever the pair is there. I put that in the non-KYC for a while until I needed to pull it back to pay for a watcher permit and watcher permits. Do you recommend those liquidities in those dexes as being successful in the past for the user at least?
Yeah, so it's a very simple option, right? And for CoinEx, well, yeah, I guess I need to check. I actually, well, haven't checked for since 2020, but yeah, I have something in liquidity pools there, and well, yeah.
Are you sure you still have it there, Krishti? They didn't pull it from you?
Well, the exchange is still online, so yeah. And well, back then APY was like 50%, so on. So yeah, then after 3 years, well, I must be a bit richer, but yeah, well, need to check.
Wow.
And yeah, well, also, yeah, I tried grid bots on Hobby, and also, well, it's well, so bots are working in certain range, right? But yeah, well, in case of choosing entry point and well, exit point appropriately, so yeah, I actually got some profit there, it seems, and well, they're still running all those grids and so on. So and yeah, well, I've checked that now Spectrum is also on CoinGecko at least, right? So. And well, after all those things are now finally getting interconnected, right? So, for example, CQSD and USDT, and yeah, I found some examples probably of triangle arbitrage done by some bot. arbitrage bot on Spectrum, right, and so on. So, and actually a lot of interesting, DeFi games there on deck. So, a few days ago, the baseless was shaken by some miner dumping like 30,000 ERC to get CQSD, right? And then some bots immediately responded by buying back, most of it in the same block, right? And then the miner used CQSD to deposit them on duck pool. Right, and the duck pools are growing quite well now, and I guess that's how Ethereum DeFi got successful, right? So, miners got some Ethereum via mining, and then they started to use it in not most efficient ways, right? And then immediately, industry of getting profit from inefficient market, let's say, appeared, right? So, bots which are scanning mempool even, and doing profits immediately when there is a chance to do that. So when a transaction is in mempool even, and then miners started to be smarter as well, and did MEV and so on. Right, and that's actually quite positive things. So it makes efficiency of markets after all, as well as liquidity locked, floating around and waiting for a good chance.
Yeah.
To get profit, being increased, right? While there is inefficiency in those markets. All right, yeah. So a lot of interesting, things to watch. Along with snacks or tea, right?
Yeah. Speaking of duck pools, Louis Vatra, I believe, just posted something, maybe in the private channel, but also in there's a new Ergo yield channel that was made. I don't know if it was made or it's been around, but it looks like it was posted in there too. It's on Twitter. He showed his yield over the past set amount of time. Let's see, that was from September. That he's getting, I think it was an 8% increase over the past September, November, December, 4 months or so, 3 or 4 months. So you got a little chart in there for people to check out. I see you just joined the group, Kirsty. So that's pretty cool to see. And I'm on duck pools right now, 106% percentage yield right now for lending. Absolutely crazy for SigUSD pool. Nuts. 97% pool utilization, 72,000 SigUSD locked. Now, Kirsty, how hard would it be to have a second SigUSD pool, perhaps, or maybe an option in the SigUSD pool or any other pool where lenders could essentially time lock their loan? So you put a time lock on it. So then you could go into the pool and you could say, okay, the annual percentage yield is 80%, the utilization is 80%, but only 50% of those tokens are locked in until, let's say, June of 2024. So then as a borrower, you would have a little bit more idea of, okay, some whales aren't going to pull their SigUSD and cause some massive liquidations here and that kind of thing. Is that possible in that kind of scenario to put a little lock on the lenders?
No, probably. So, in the first place, there is also SigmaFi, right? Which is also
there is. I hear you.
And then, for duck pools, I saw conversations about duck pools 2.0. But I haven't seen exact roadmap, and from what I read, design phase will be started in February, right? And they are thinking about some new features and improvements in pooling. I can't provide details, and it's better probably to invite Duck Pools guy maybe to some another Ergo polls. Maybe to the AMA.
Yeah, it's interesting too that Duck Pools is using their own DAO here as opposed to Padia. So they just announced that they are going to the dashboard for their Quacks related metrics and their two key voting systems, indicative and formal vote systems, should be out in the next 24 hours. I think I just got that pop up before I started, but that's pretty neat. That'll be neat to see how they tackle that kind of thing versus how Padia is tackling it and so on.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting. That's the CQSD pool is consuming liquidity so aggressively, as well as SigmaFi, by the way, right? And after all, also Spectrum pool, right? A lot of CQSD, probably most of supply, even, right? And with those crazy movements like miners dumping 30k ERC at once. That's quite profitable, right? To provide liquidity to Spectrum pool. Finally, a lot of interesting liquidity games, and with more connection rights between decentralized and centralized sites. For example, with developing CQSD to USDT. Trading, decentralized part, right, will also pull liquidity from centralized, probably, right, because it's less risky in certain aspects, even, and profitable after all. So interesting times. And
we've got to mention Lithos having a Redux here, a renewal or rebirth as far as the project getting picked up again and pushed through. We have Rob Arochibi in chats now. We have Cheese in chats. We have Armenio as well, putting a lot of focus into Lithos coming back online and getting pushed, getting built. Super excited about that.
A lot of talks about sidechains, right, and Lithos. This space, this aspect, this side of the ecosystem is also getting more and more buzzing. So any feedback on Sigmanauts DAO testing? How it goes?
No, not yet. No feedback yet. There's people I haven't heard any bad feedback in the channel. So there are a few people that have voted already. Comments that have been posted. I even changed my PFP icon for Padia, so I could match my other ones in Telegram. Which is neat. You can even put a bio for your own account, so that's awesome. I encourage, let me just put a full stop here, because I'm guilty of it too. I encourage people interacting with Padia to please use a clean wallet. Don't do these kind of things with your, any of your bags or even your tip wallet or that kind of thing. Just move your tokens to a wallet that's new and fresh and you're going to use for voting. It's just, be smart, be safe. Just, keep those kind of things separate. Not only for security reasons, but also because, you're voting with a token that is linked back to your name specifically. So somebody in 2 seconds could search through the blockchain and and see exactly how much you're holding and see what you've transacted with and who you've transacted with. So just be mindful of those kind of things when you're interacting with these public-facing things that have your name or your icon or your Telegram ID attached to a wallet, essentially. So, yeah, it's already easy enough to find you through your tip wallet by tipping you and then backtracing when you've deposited things into it. So, yeah, just be cautious about that kind of thing. But yeah, Kushti, we're super excited. It's like a breath of fresh air. When Glasgow put those first couple votes up, it was like, holy cow, this is insanely easy to connect my wallet, get my vote token, and just start voting and commenting on proposals. So really, really excited about this. Let's see. Should we go to questions? I think we got a few questions.
All right.
Christian.
Yeah, let's jump on the questions.
Okay, let's see. We got a good one from Wombo. That question is, what type of sidechains would you like to see the most built? What are you excited about the most for sidechains, Kushti? When you talk about sidechains and building the framework and all that kind of stuff, what couple things come to your mind first about how you would like to see them utilized?
All right. So, there are different aspects here, right? So, consensus and also features in regards with transactions or maybe inbuilt applications, right? So, pre-existing applications. The main chain had only emission contracts, right? Well, actually 2 emission contracts, so one for miners, one for the treasury. Possible to do a lot of experimentation here. So, for example, also introducing dependency on DEX contracts, right? And playing with emission, for example, having emission being retargeted, due to situation on this DEX, right? And so on, but it would be good maybe to move some transaction-intensive applications such as Mixer, right, to a sidechain. Maybe to move the applications where it could be hard for participants to pay fees in Ergo, so pay fees, maybe just rewards people for economic activity, for example, for working Ergo, right, with some tokens which then can be paid as fees, right? I'm thinking about something like that for ChainCash sidechain, for example. Anyway, right, Ergs would be utilized, right, so locked on sidechains in those examples. And, in regards with consensus, there could be different motivating things here. So, one example, one motivation probably is about rewarding Ergo miners, right, especially for working on subblocks, right, for propagating them and so on. Also, as currently there is a lot of hash power around with exuberance of different devices, especially after the merge, right? So, ETH hash, ASICs, for example, and ASICs in general. So, there could be side chains, I guess.
Did I hear you correctly that you could have a sidechain mined by ASICs on Ergo? Did you just say that? You still there? Did we lose Kushti, Andy?
Still doing bots, right? That's
Oh, there he
example.
is. Sorry, I missed you there for a second, Kushti. I missed everything you just said. Did you say that? Did you hear me? Did you hear me ask if you said ASICs could be mining on sidechains in Ergo?
Yeah, like existing like ETH hash, right? SHA-256, CAS. How's it called? CAS. So yeah, Casper hash basically, right? Currently a lot of hash power, which can jump on, and by that, yeah, also bringing players behind hash power, right, to the community. So, miners did a lot and still doing a lot for the Ergo ecosystem. Even that's example with miner dumping on Spectrum, dumping Ergo for CQSD on Spectrum, to then put CQSD to a dark pool, right? So, miners actually doing a lot. What I'm doing now, so I'm thinking about creating some prototype, right, at least, and then, outline a design by, improving the current drafts, which I'm having since the Ergo hack. Let's see. Maybe we can do more community chats on that in coming weeks.
That'll be good. Yeah. We got another question, Kushti, and this is a good question, I think, directed towards you, but I'll answer it first. The question is from Augustus Kent, and it is, in such a congested space, what is Ergo's true USP according to each of you? That's a unique selling point, I imagine. So in such a congested space, what is Ergo's true unique selling point according to each of you? So I'll start that up, Kushti, and that's a really tough one, but because I feel like everything I touch in Ergo compared to things that I touch elsewhere is so different. So what I value in Ergo, at least, as somebody who is, what did I hear? Flying Pig use the term spaghetti coder, or something like that. So, or duct tape coder, something like that. So as that kind of dev, as well as somebody involved in the community, I value in Ergo the fact that you can sit here and chat and have a conversation with Kushti. You can have a conversation with, MHS Sam. You can ask questions to Captain Nemo about the wallet. You can DM Mr. Stelfelger and talk to them about the Mosaic framework and all that kind of stuff, and have those conversations that, as I said before, I've jumped into other cryptos chat and asked some questions, and I've heard crickets, nothing, no help, nothing like that. So I value that a ton. I also value that, how do I say this? I value the community, the uniqueness of the community, I'd say. So it's hard to make the comparison to another community, though. But as far as here in this community, I value that Ergonauts are quick to correct and quick to offer insight or suggestions on what they would think or they would see. And I think that's helpful, and it's also helpful to have thick skin in this ecosystem. But I think overall that leads to a better benefit to the chain itself. If you're too afraid to tell somebody that, hey, your idea is great, but did you check this out? Or hey, somebody else has done this in this chain. You should look at this as you build. Or maybe it's a waste of your time to rebuild it, or that kind of thing. Without those conversations, you get really, really shaky foundations. So I think community and the way that devs in the community interact with each other and themselves really helps stabilize that base there, to allow, a very building with intent and building with reason, as opposed to just building to make money or building to, ingest and extract value and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd say community is a huge selling point for me for Ergo. Access to devs is another huge selling point. And as a shitty dev myself, access to amazing tooling that allows somebody with basic knowledge. Let's take Cotier from Comet. The ecosystem is so easy to interact with, the chain and explore and the API endpoints, that he can go to ChatGPT and give an example of what a readout of an endpoint looks like, and tell ChatGPT to make something that interacts with it this way and reads this from this way. And boom, he's got a little maybe Python bot. I don't know how he's running it, but now you can check your holding status of Comet. It's just things like that the back end of Ergo is just so user-friendly as far as that, on that easy level of API access and Explorer access, and tooling that are a big win for me, at least. So I would say those three things, I guess. Just, Kushti, what do you think is a unique selling point of Ergo?
Yeah, so, well, surprisingly, it's still pretty much the same as back in 2019, right, when the mainnet was launched. So, still, we have basically EVM chains, right, well, with different level of decentralization, right? Let's say for simplicity. Then, yeah, well, some proof of stake chains, blockchain simulations like EOS, Solana, and so on. But yeah, non-EVM. Then, yeah, for proof of work, yeah, we mostly do have blockchains without contractual capabilities, at least rich contractual capabilities, right? Starting from Bitcoin and to Casper, right, and so on. And then, yeah, Ergo, which is proof of work, right, and, having rich contractual capabilities. Also, unique support for building cryptographic protocols on the application level, which is still a very unique thing in the space. Even now in 2024. Which is a bit surprising, but yeah. And then, yeah, I believe because of that, so, if, Bitcoin is kind of digital gold, right? So commodity money, but also, yeah, a bit controversial in some aspects. Because of tail emission rights, possibly not covering cost of mining. Then, Ergo is in the first place, kind of fixed commodity money, right, with storage rent. So because of that, it's kind of more real commodity money. And then yeah, so if with Bitcoin people are using centralized services, often doing shady things, straight scams. Like lending services and so on, right? Some of them crashed. back in 2022, even, right? Around FTX, some lending service crashed. Trusted service, but yeah. So here, in case of Ergo, so you can build derivative instruments. So you can basically build contractual money, right? Digital alternative to paper money in the same digital environment, right? So in the same blockchain, which is also quite different, right, from all other blockchains. I'm aware of, because usually whether it's not about commodity money, right? So it's not there. Or if you have commodity money like in Bitcoin, Litecoin, and some other proof of work cryptocurrencies, then you don't have trustless derivative instruments, or derivative instruments with known and minimized trust assumptions. So in short, that's it. But if we are going down to details, then there were some presentations given with like 1 hour to be spent on providing general observation of differences from other cryptocurrencies. But in short, I think most important things about that.
I think another thing that sets Ergo apart from the rest, Kushti, is that there's I got my lights back. Is that there is no let's take I'm not saying anything bad about these chains when I'm speaking about them, but let's take Cardano, for example. I feel like when there's a leading entity such as IOG or some large group of coders, sometimes the community will look to them to do something and push things through and create new technologies and build on the chain. But when you have a place like Ergo where where that responsibility of the chain and the forward progress of the chain relies on the users themselves and the devs and the community devs and the core devs, you have people with that mindset of, hey, if this doesn't exist, let's build it, or let's find somebody to build it, as opposed to, when will these guys actually build this? When will this ruling entity or this upper entity, spend the funds to build this? So I think Ergo, that makes us much more nimble. That's why we have Babel fees already. That's why we have Sigma options already. That's why we have, bonds already. Besides other chains, because people saw a need for it and they did it. They weren't waiting for anybody to do it for them. I think that's a huge selling point that makes Ergo really, really nimble and fast for those kind of things.
That's more about social governance aspect, right? So, it's kind of open source money movement, let's say.
Exactly. All right, let's see. We got a couple minutes left. We got another question from, I'd like to know this too, because I didn't look too much at it. Kushti, this one's for you. Can you talk about really quickly the difference between stable swaps, stable pair swaps on DEXs versus just standard liquidity pools with normal swaps between a token and a coin or a stable coin?
There are different actually solutions for stable to stable, but mostly they are about concentrating liquidity around known price level, right? So, for example, when you have USDT to USDC pool, right? So the price is about 1.0 all the time, basically, right? And then there is no need to spread liquidity around the whole range. So then swap formula is basically accounting for liquidity concentration around the level. So most of liquidity is concentrated there. But then, there are a lot of possible implementations. For example, Curve. Then, there was some paper from Waves about the stable swaps. Then, who else did that? And the Spectrum, I guess, also. I haven't checked the proposal in details, but it seems it's not like Curve, right? So, maybe modified, because a lot of proposals how to do that concentration of liquidity, but it's still about the same basic principle of concentration, right?
So right now, what we're talking about with stable swaps that don't utilize this, they're just running the liquidity pools and arbitraging themselves back down to keep even with stable pairs currently. Is that how it works currently? I haven't swapped stable to stable before.
On Spectrum, you mean?
No, I mean like on let's say Cardano, where you have IUSD and you have JED coin. So you have two stables right there.
Oh, but still on Spectrum. So I believe, it should be about stable stable swap. Let's say, right? So some option for it, because for using just ordinary Uniswap like constant products AMM pool for stables, is not efficient at all. So probably they're doing something, but I don't know much about the Cardano side. Need actually to play with it, but hard to find time, to be honest, for checking. And I also imagine as there are a lot of DEXs there, probably there are different stable swap solutions, right? With different formulas even for MM pools. Okay.
All right, let's see. We've got one more question, Krishti, and this is kind of a general thing.
Maybe for you.
And no, this is good. This is good. I think we can both try to answer this. It's from Ursa Minor 2010. Do you think that cryptocurrencies will change economics and politics and open up a better option than the capitalism-socialism struggle? So I think it can change because capitalism and the current markets and politics will need to catch up, essentially. So that's my belief in how it's going to change. We may not necessarily inject ourselves into that kind of change to change them, but we will create such a movement in my head that they will have to come try to catch us. So the idea in that is this, and I look at things like the Kenya Cooperative and the Good Things DAO, and utilizing this people's money and this digital currency to help people without borders, and have this kind of peer-to-peer exchange, these abilities to write these trustless contracts. We can continue on, Ergo continue on no matter what is happening in politics or sorts like that. So in my mind, this is going to be built, this is going to continue to be adopted, and people are going to start realizing the benefits of having these kind of trustless contracts between each other and this method of instant exchange of value. The politics and those forms of socialism or capitalism, they're going to have to catch up as far as I'm concerned there. I don't think we need to inject ourselves there. Yeah, they got to catch up. Alex, what do you think?
So I think maybe, hopefully, because of the cryptocurrencies, all those 19th century isms can be redefined, right? Because, well, in modern life, often they do not make any sense, but unfortunately, there is no any alternative language, right? Just those things, well, which often if you are trying to get definitions behind them, simply do not have them, and then yes, because of a lack of an appropriate definition, often there is prefix post or post, and then you can have post-socialism versus post-capitalism. But that language is simply saying you that is indicating that there is no any meaning, right, in it. So it's can't provide any definitions, right? And then in absence of it, it's trying to hide the lack of definitions with some prefixes like post. Because of cryptocurrencies, I think maybe it would be possible to answer the questions how money emission is affecting all those isms, right, and how it affected them since the 19th century. Because if there is basically money printer, right, which is producing value for only a few parties, then how that could be called capitalist, for example, right? Or socialist. So it's probably just inappropriate language to start with. I think the nature of money emission, right? Under some considerations, can provide more appropriate models for modern economic life. Let's say, and how it could be revoked for the better.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. Let's see. I think that's it. I think we've dried up the questions, Kushti. Anything you want to close the week with?
So thank you for your questions, and it's maybe a bit shame that we answered just like 3 or 4 questions. So maybe we can do better. But let's see. So hard to say. We'll be on the MA next time. See you.
All right, guys.
Thanks
so much.
Bye.